And welcome to another edition of Quoth Raven, Lewis Bright Raven. I'm your host, Lewis Bright Raven, 28-year veteran of comics, science fiction, fantasy, horror, and role-playing games as a writer, illustrator, and editor. Today is day 21 of the Booktober monthly event where I review comics, mostly comics. We'll also have some books in there before the end of the month, I promise, and some other stuff as well that we're going to review. Okay, let's go ahead and get straight to our books this week. We have 4 books, I do believe. We'll start with Dark Crystal number 1, or actually Dark Crystal Free Comic Book Day book from 2011. The publisher was Archaea. The writer is Brian Hauguin. I hope I didn't slaughter his name too much. The artists are Alex Sheikman and Lizzie John. The genre is fantasy and was released in 2011. This was a flip book. It's the other side of the flip book with the Mouseguard. Now, I wrote the Mouseguard review first, but because of the order of alphabetical order, Dark Crystal came up first on the list today. But anyway, I think this book is a little too dark for younger readers, so I would have to say 11 and up compared to Mouseguard, which is a little bit more all ages and respects. But it's an excellent story. It tells of the seer Agra and her son and the origins of the Dark Crystal. You don't have to have seen the movie to understand the storyline. It takes 1,000 years. It takes place 1,000 years before the movie storyline, and it came out as a 2-volume graphic novel set in 2011 and 2012, respectively. This is just kind of like a preview story. I would hardly recommend this to the fans of the movie, and I wouldn't be adverse to recommending it to those new to the brand either. I recommend it says recommended for all ages, but really it's 11 and up. Rated 5 stars. And here's some of the artwork. A very nice painterly look on this stuff. It doesn't look like I don't know if this was painted digitally or hand painted with watercolors and other stuff or what, but it looks really nice. Reminds me of the stuff that was all watercolors and stuff, but you can do that in digital coloring today, so it could be all digital color work. The characters are really well respected to Brian Froud's designs, who created the characters for the Dark Crystal for Jim Henson. It talks about the alien Urskex who came and built the crystal, and they sang that. Well, I didn't build the crystal. They sang to the crystal, and it would sing back to them, and they focused everything and reshaped the world of Thra. And it's pretty nice stuff. Really pretty book. This is where her son is there, and she's in her observer tower. And basically, Rana just wants to know, who his father was, and he kind of goes to find out something, and it doesn't work. But still, really nice work. And it's really interesting because his yellow eye here, it starts to burn like a flame literally outside of the eye, whatever he's from the vision he sees. And I don't show that panel, I don't think. But this is what he sees, is this, with the dark enemies of what would happen. So overall, very exceptional work. Highly recommended if you can find it. But if you can't, look for the two trades, the two graphic novels. I don't know how much those will cost. I didn't get a chance to look them up, but they're certainly worth the hunt. Our next book is Dr. Klot's Twisted Tales, has a cover price of $1.50. Publisher is One Shot Press. The writer is David C.J. Bunn, with artists Ans Perrins, Josh Simmons, and Tom Ahern. The cover is by Mark Baudet, which is part of the reason why I got the book, because it's a Baudet cover. The genre is horror comedy, and it was originally released in 1995. And what it's about is there's two stories in this book. The first one, a mad scientist creates cows with no bones. Don't know how he does that, but he does, and he sells the meat. This eventually poisons all the meat eaters, as they and their children are adversely affected by the boneless cow meat, and it wipes out a significant amount of the human populations. But of course, the vegans live on. There are some funny things about it. Like I said, it's a horror comedy. But the other story is about a guy who was hit on by a young teen who was brought back to her family, and they're all serial killers, but it's played as the parody to the teen slasher films of the 1970s and 1980s. It's recommended for ages 13 and up, rating 3 out of 5 stars. Let's take a look at the art. Again, it's got that kind of outlaw, underground type black and white comics. Where you see, this is the boneless cows. They just kind of lay there in the stuff, and you kind of goofed. If they're boneless, they don't have teeth because teeth are bone. But and you can't exactly have a skull or a head without a bone. But just what the heck? It's it's meant to be comedy and whatever. So. But it's quite interesting. Funny thing. Anyway, here's a kind of a drawing of a newborn child who's afflicted with the disease. He slips down and bounces off the floor into the nurse's hands, and it's because there's no bones. It's all rubberized or whatever, and that's kind of what happens. Is all the meat eaters become like rubber people, and they die. And she's confronting him, the guy who made it and stuff, and it's quite funny. But it's basically a kind of a hilarious knock on meat consumption and the damages to the earth that it supposedly causes. Next book is Mouseguard. That's the other half of the Archaea book with Dark Crystal. And I don't know why it doesn't have what it's about in here. That is crazy. Oh, well, we'll just go ahead and I'll tell you what it's about. What it's about is a story about a mouse that has to make a pardon me, a deal with 3 creatures: a hawk, a serpent, snake, and a crab, because all three of them are predators of the mice in this village, and his village is dying because they're taking out all the mice. So he makes a deal with all three of them. He goes, well, if you give me this, I'll kill the other two. And that way you will have your fill of mice for you, but most of my people will be, saved. And he does this with each one of the three creatures. And he gets the venom from the snake, the talon from the hawk, and a piece of the crab's shell. And he uses these pieces to kill all three, basically, in different ways. And it's a very well drawn, very well written story that's for all ages, not too violent. Just really well done. Let's take a look at the art. This is where he's making the deal with the hawk. And the hawk somehow tears out a talon out of its foot, which I don't see why it would do that, but okay, it's part of the story. But anyway, gives the talon for that. And then the crab gives him a piece of his shell, underbelly. And then he goes to the serpent and gets the venom. And this is one of the examples. He went to the shore where the crab scuttled about and used the hawk's talon. He pierces the exact spot where the crab had surrendered its own shell and kills it. He then goes back to the snake and uses the crab shell to stick it in the snake's mouth, and it's so hard that it can't shut its mouth or do anything, and it dies from that. Kind of like, and then uses the snake venom as he goes, hey, I've got a thing to drink here, let's have a toast. And he puts the thing down the hawk's thing, and the snake venom kills the hawk. So, and he goes home, and he's here to his family. So that's kind of the cool thing. I guess I told you the whole story, but you got to read the book. It's really well drawn, really well done. It is a 5-star book. So really both that Flipbook, Dark Crystal, and Mouseguard, if you can find it from 2011, definitely get that. And just get Mouseguard in general, because Mouseguard is one of the best books out there. If you can find any Mouseguard, pick it up. Our last book of the day is Stephen Bissette's Tyrant, #1, $2.95. Cover price. Spider Baby Graphics and Publications was the publisher. Writer, illustrator Stephen R. Bissette. Genre, historical fiction, dinosaur history, and it was released originally in September of 1994. This is the epic tale of a T-Rex's birth, life, and death. In this particular issue, we're introduced to the dangerous world of the late Cretaceous wilds of what we now call North America. And the terrible cry echoes through the forest, stirring the prehistoric monsters who dwell there. The cries of a mother T-Rex laying her eggs. Now that she has laid them, she must protect them from the many predators that will come after them until they are hatched, and even then she'll have to teach the younglings how to survive. This series was nominated in 1995 for the Eisner Award for Best New Series. But unfortunately, this gem of a comic was sorely overlooked in the 90s, and Bissette's never been able to finish the story. Still, if you want to check it out, it's a wonderful work. It's worth experiencing if you can find it. And I recommend it for ages 12 and up with a rating of 5 stars. Let's take a look at the artwork. And here we are with, it's a black and white book. Bissette's, got some really nice stuff here. It's kind of a precursor to later successful series, I think. Hold on a second. Let me check something real quick. Before I say something I'm wrong about. Yes, it is a precursor. Okay. Um, okay. Well, no. Hard to say. um, I'm not really sure exactly. I think that uh, that Ricardo Delgado's Age of Reptiles came out slightly before this, but both of them are in the same vein. So anyway, look more at the artwork here, and this has got the pterodactyl dive bombing and getting a smaller dinosaur for dinner. And then it shows the T-Rex giving birth, laying the eggs in its nest. And it says before this morning, she'd only claimed only kill as her own, meaning the she was always, this is her, only kill. But this is different. Uh, she knows what it's like, you know. Um, tie open wide ground. She doesn't know. She knows doesn't know exactly why she chose it, but she feels like it's hers. And now these, one for every roar, um, one for every pain, meaning the eggs. And she's got the scent of the eggs, which of course has her uh, scent on them as well. Um, Smell of her blood, but they too are not meat. They are not to be eaten, but they are hers. Hers, they are hers, not to be eaten, not meat, hers. And type thing of protect these, eggs so that they will uh, be born. Okay. And that is our thing. But again, Bissette had a really, I think he had 3 or 4 issues, and unfortunately, again, overlooked, not given even though it was a critical success, it just wasn't receiving the financial support, wasn't getting the sales it should have back then. And I don't know if this is because it was the mid 90s and the market was imploding, and a lot of the companies and the small press supporters, the distributors were going out of business at this time. Diamond was not supportive of indies at this time, particularly, still aren't. So it kind of left them in the lurch. And, it's been a long time. He still hasn't finished it. I would love to see him finish it. It's an excellent story. But we'll see. All we can do is like beg Steve to do a Kickstarter or something, I guess, at this point. Because all these years, you would have thought a publisher would have picked them up. Dark Horse probably would have picked it up, but they have Age of Reptiles by Ricardo Delgado and be kind of redundant. So, other than that, I don't know anybody else who would really pick it up and succeed with it. So, that is our reviews for today. Tomorrow's books will be A Matter of Life, trade paperback, Everything is Teeth, trade paperback, Plastic Forks #1, and Upgrade Soul trade paperback. If you want to ask me any questions or reach me for other things, you can contact me on Facebook at lewis.brightraven, deviantart.com/brightraven, YouTube channel on Quoth the Raven, Lewis Brightraven. My Gmail is quotheravenlbr72@gmail.com. And if you can't reach me on Gmail, try lewisbrightraven@yahoo.com. The podcast, the regular weekly podcast, Airs Thursday evenings at 9 p.m. This week we haven't determined exactly what the show's going to be about. I'm trying to hear back from possible guests. Once we figure that out, then I can put the show together. Hopefully, I won't be doing so at the last moment. But until then, have a safe day. I'm going to go head off to the comic shop and get my books for the week. And maybe we'll talk about what I got this week tomorrow night on the show. Maybe not. We'll see what's going on, because there's quite a bit of stuff going down. I will give an update on the T-shirts channel, or T-shirts page and site and everything I'm putting together. So there'll be some other things that we'll talk about as well. Okay. So until then, we'll see you tomorrow around 1:30 p.m. Have a good day.